On July 28, 2025, the unthinkable happened. Walmart, the world's largest retailer, announced its phased withdrawal from the US market. The news broke early in the morning, catching millions off guard and sending shockwaves through the economy. Investors scrambled to assess the fallout, while ordinary Americans checked their phones in disbelief. The closure of Walmart is more than a business story. It's a seismic event that touches nearly every household in the country. For decades, Walmart was more than just a store. It was a symbol of low prices, convenience, and American retail dominance. Generations of families relied on Walmart for everything from groceries to school supplies, making it a cornerstone of daily life. Now, its closure is a national crisis, exposing the real-world consequences of sweeping economic policy decisions. Communities across the country are left reeling, unsure of what comes next. In its official statement, Walmart cited insurmountable supply chain disruptions and unsustainable costs, directly linked to tariffs enacted during the Trump administration. These trade barriers, intended to protect American industry, instead crippled the very system that kept Walmart's shelves stocked and prices low. As costs soared, Walmart's core promise, everyday low prices, became impossible to sustain. Shoppers noticed prices creeping up and the company struggled to adapt to the new economic reality. Now the company will begin liquidating assets, selling off properties, and closing the doors on thousands of stores that once served as community hubs. Over 4,600 U.S. stores will shutter, and Walmart's domestic e-commerce operations will come to an abrupt end, leaving a massive void in the retail landscape. The fallout is immediate and devastating. Millions of employees, consumers, and suppliers now face an uncertain future. Local economies, already fragile, are bracing for the ripple effects. This is the largest retail collapse in U.S. history, forcing a national reckoning with the true impact of protectionist trade measures and the vulnerabilities in our economic system. Walmart's exit stands as a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the delicate balance between national economic strategy and the global systems that power modern life. The world is watching, and the lessons learned here will shape the future of commerce for years to come. To truly understand the reasons behind Walmart's collapse, we must first grasp the concept of tariffs and how they impact the global economy. Tariffs are not just abstract policies, they have real, tangible effects on businesses, consumers, and entire industries. At their core, tariffs are an economic tool often used by governments to influence trade and protect domestic industries. They are at the very heart of the crisis that unfolded for Walmart and many other companies. A tariff is essentially a tax placed on imported goods. This tax is usually paid by the importer, the company or individual bringing goods into the country. As a result, the cost of these goods rises, and importers often pass these higher costs on to consumers in the form of increased prices. The main goal of tariffs is to make foreign products more expensive, thereby encouraging people to buy domestically produced goods instead. This is a classic protectionist strategy designed to shield local industries from international competition and preserve jobs at home. However, in today's interconnected world, supply chains stretch across continents. Tariffs disrupt these intricate networks, increasing costs at every stage from raw materials to finished products, making it harder for businesses to operate efficiently. It's a common misconception that tariffs are paid by exporting countries. In reality, the burden falls on domestic importers and, ultimately, on everyday consumers who see higher prices at the checkout. These higher costs ripple through the economy, leading to inflation for essential items like groceries, clothing, and electronics. As prices climb, families feel the squeeze and their purchasing power declines. Often, countries targeted by tariffs retaliate by imposing their own tariffs, sparking trade wars. These escalating conflicts can damage both sides, making goods even more expensive and reducing international cooperation. Exporters lose access to vital markets, businesses face uncertainty, and economic growth slows. The effects can be devastating, spreading instability across the globe. The Walmart saga is a powerful example of how tariffs, when mismanaged or escalated, can spiral out of control, leading to widespread economic instability, job losses, and hardship for communities everywhere. The seeds of Walmart's eventual downfall were quietly planted in 2018, a year that would mark the beginning of a seismic shift in global commerce. At the time, Walmart was still the undisputed giant of American retail, with thousands of stores and a finely tuned supply chain that spanned the globe. But beneath the surface, storm clouds were gathering, clouds that would soon unleash a torrent of challenges the company was unprepared to face. That year, the US-China trade war erupted under President Trump, sending shockwaves through the world economy and upending decades of business as usual. The administration's goal was to reduce the massive trade deficit and confront what it saw as unfair Chinese trade practices using aggressive tariffs as its primary weapon. These tariffs quickly ballooned, covering hundreds of billions of dollars in goods. China responded in kind, escalating the conflict and creating a climate of uncertainty that rippled through every sector of the economy. The immediate result was chaos for American businesses. Importers faced soaring costs, retailers struggled to keep shelves stocked, and exporters lost access to one of their most important markets almost overnight. Hopes that these policies would bring manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. quickly faded. Instead, companies scrambled to shift their supply chains to other low-cost countries like Vietnam and India, bypassing both the U.S. and China in search of stability and lower costs. The trade deficit didn't disappear, it simply shifted as America began importing more from new partners. The underlying problems remained, but the players had changed. For American manufacturers, the cost of Chinese components soared, squeezing profit margins and forcing tough decisions. Meanwhile, U.S. farmers, once reliant on Chinese buyers for crops like soybeans, watched their markets evaporate, leaving silos full and fields empty. As tariffs became a permanent fixture, the economic strain deepened. Small businesses shuttered, economists warned of long-term damage, and headlines chronicled the growing toll. What began as a supposedly short-term negotiating tactic soon hardened into a long-term structural challenge, reshaping the landscape of global trade for years to come. For Walmart, a company whose entire business model depended on the smooth flow of goods across borders, this new era of uncertainty and disruption proved to be a fatal blow, one from which it would never fully recover. Walmart's rise was built on global supply chain mastery, sourcing goods worldwide to deliver low prices. China was the linchpin, supplying up to 80% of Walmart's U.S. merchandise. This deep integration made Walmart uniquely vulnerable to U.S.-China trade disruptions. The company's pricing, marketing, and profits depended on the free flow of Chinese goods. Walmart's logistics innovations, like cross-docking, relied on predictable costs and timing. Tariffs shattered this system, causing costs to spike and shipments to stall. Suppliers couldn't absorb the new costs. A 25% tariff was non-negotiable. Walmart could no longer pressure suppliers for better terms, eroding its low-price foundation. The very strategy that made Walmart dominant became its Achilles heel. Tariffs squeezed Walmart's business model, targeting core consumer products with up to 25% duties. Operating on razor-thin margins, Walmart faced catastrophic cost increases. The company tried to pressure suppliers and shift sourcing to other countries, but alternatives couldn't match China's scale or efficiency. The result? Higher prices for consumers and the erosion of Walmart's everyday low prices promise. Inflation hit low and middle-income families hardest, undermining Walmart's customer base. Sales growth slowed, profits declined, and warnings to policymakers went unheeded. In 2024, Walmart's CEO declared the business model incompatible with current trade policy. The company's foundation was crumbling under the weight of protectionism. Walmart's desperate efforts could not overcome the relentless financial pressure. Walmart's closure triggered one of the largest mass layoffs in U.S. history. 1.6 million jobs lost. These were not just numbers, they were cashiers, stockers, truck drivers, and more, many in rural towns with few alternatives. Walmart towns lost their main employer, affordable grocer, and community hub overnight. The ripple effect devastated local economies, closing small businesses that depended on Walmart's traffic. Unemployment surged, especially in states with high Walmart presence. Supply chain jobs vanished, from truckers to suppliers. Many former employees lacked skills to transition, facing a flooded job market and loss of benefits. The closure is a social catastrophe, leaving deep scars on communities nationwide. Wall Street's reaction was swift. Walmart's stock plummeted over 60%, triggering a market-wide panic. The collapse was seen as a warning. The long-term costs of the trade war had come due. Analysts had warned of Walmart's vulnerability, but few expected a total exit. Credit ratings for other retailers were immediately downgraded. Experts called it a self-inflicted wound, the tragic result of protectionist policy. Investors began reassessing the viability of other global retailers, fearing a broader retail collapse. Capital fled the sector, expansion plans were shelved, and economic uncertainty deepened. Walmart's fall shattered confidence in the stability of American retail. Walmart's collapse sent shockwaves through the economy, flooding the market with empty stores and distribution centers. Property values fell, landlords faced ruin, and communities struggled to repurpose massive retail spaces. Thousands of suppliers, tailored to Walmart's demands, faced bankruptcy. The transportation and logistics industries lost major contracts, triggering further layoffs. Globally, Walmart's exit destabilized manufacturers in Asia and Latin America, leading to mass layoffs abroad. For American consumers, the loss of Walmart means higher prices and less competition. The Walmart effect now works in reverse, fueling inflation and hurting low-income families. The absence of Walmart leaves a vacuum in both the economy and daily life. As the nation surveys the wreckage, the lesson is clear. Protectionism in a globalized world carries immense risks. The trade war, meant to protect American jobs, delivered the greatest blow to employment and retail in modern history. Walmart's fall exposes the fragility of hyper-optimized global supply chains. The future demands more resilient, diversified sourcing and smarter risk management. Policymakers must move beyond rhetoric, embracing data-driven decisions and considering long-term consequences. America faces a crossroads: how to foster competitiveness and protect workers without severing vital global ties. The challenge is to build a resilient, fair economy for all. The question remains, how do we move forward from here?